degrees, an MSc in biotechnology from the University of Pune, and an MBA in marketing and e-commerce from the University of New York. He used his international exposure as a student and his strategic role as IT professional to full-time join the bandwagon of politics. He became a full-time TRS activist in the year 2006. His go-getter tendency, never give up, mindset, inclination to fight for the deprived, enabled him to get connected with a wide spectrum of the political arena. His vision is to build Hyderabad into the largest center for startups and entrepreneurship activities in India, called T-Hub. He is aspiring to make Telangana the most investor-friendly state by providing the required facilities and by removing the avoidable delays in any new project launch. Ladies and gentlemen, to deliver the keynote address, please join me in welcoming Honorable Minister for IT, Industry, M&A, and NRI, Telangana, Mr. K.P. Rama Rao. May I also call Mr. Mukund Padmanabhan to please come up on stage and felicitate the Honorable Minister.
Honorable Deputy Chief Minister Garu, the Chief Guest of today's event, Excellence in Education, powered by The Hindu and presented by Blue Star, the Chief Editor of The Hindu, Mukund Padmanabhan. Can you please turn that light off? A little bit off, Jay. Thank you. The Chief Editor of The Hindu, Mukund Padmanabhan. Welcome to Hyderabad, sir. We want to see you more often here. The Resident Editor of The Hindu, Shri Prashant Reddy Garu. And to the distinguished gathering here, I see a lot of friends, I see a lot of people that I typically normally interact with quite a bit, ranging from academic luminaries to researchers to a lot of young professionals as well. Welcome you all to this event, and thank you, Hindu, for this wonderful opportunity. I think Honorable Deputy Chief Minister has covered a lot of ground in terms of how government should not only, as a government, not only should focus on excellence, but also at the same time focus on providing more infrastructure, focus on ensuring that all of our children, all the schools who engage are part of the system. Also focus on ensuring, while we deliver on the basic infrastructure, basic services, at the same time, do not compromise on quality. I think he covered a lot of ground, so I will not touch that part of it, but rather I will touch a few other softer and finer points of what I think will contribute to excellence in education. Education today, if you look at the global scenario, is one of the biggest levers, because if you think about it, education is a fantastic platform that really helps you bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots. For most part of human history, a person who's born into a certain economic status could not elevate himself or improve his or her standard of living, even if they were for a lifetime. But today, if you look at it, if you think about it, only in the last 200 years, in fact, if I could put it a little more concisely, one can actually aspire to change their economic status in their own lifetime. This is largely, I would attribute to the industrial revolution and also to the education standards that have been set across the world. If you think about it, you today can actually, if you look at the world and if you look at what's happening in India as well, while the world is aging, India is getting younger. The world today, if you look at it, every country, including China, which we typically get compared with, is aging. But India, more than 50% of the population in India is today the median age of 29 years. And if you also expand it a bit and look at it, India today has about 64% of its population between the age groups of 18 and 59, which makes it the country with the largest workforce on the planet. Now, what contributed to this large workforce? I'm talking semi-skilled, skilled and unskilled work pool. What has contributed to it? If you look at the world, if you look at developed countries, you see a lot of Indians who are mired in hundreds of years of caste system and feudal system, but today, helped by education and finding this as a tool, they could escape from the clutches of these age-old systems. Now, one can compete, one can aspire, as is seen from someone like Satya Nadella, who's from our own city of Hyderabad, or Sundar Pichai, who's actually from Chennai. They too are now leading a couple of world's largest corporations, and by sheer virtue of the education they've received in India, I think today they're able to lead the global companies, global organizations. That goes to show you that education today is the greatest leveler between the different classes, between the different social statuses that exist in our country, that have existed in our country for ages now. To quote our visionary Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Bharat Ratna, he had said, higher education is the panacea of all of our social troubles. Today, if you think about it, he's been essentious. He actually was able to see through our system of caste, of classes, of the social divides that we have in our country, and he was clearly able to enunciate the formula which can definitely elevate us from our situation now to a future, to a better and brighter future. Today, if you think about it, the poorest of poor men in our country, poorest of poor men in our country, maybe a daily wage earner in a Narega scheme, or compare him to one of the largest corporate house bosses. Both of them have some fundamental values. Both of them have a unison of thought, a commonality of thought, so to put. Both of them want their children to do better than them. Both of them want their children to get better education. The common man, the wage earner or daily wage earner, actually wants his children, in spite of, well, he knows what he's gone through. He believes, and this country gives him the hope. The education system gives him the hope. The education and the experiences of others give him the hope that if his children are better educated than what he has done, if his children are able to afford good education, if his children are able to excel in the opportunities that are provided to him or them, they will definitely be able to compete globally. And the richest of rich men could be a corporate boss, could be having his own large organization, which either he has inherited or his family, would want his children also to get good education, so as to carry on the legacy, so as to carry on the torch. So there is a commonality of thought, cutting across classes, cutting across different strata of society, cutting across the haves and the have-nots. I think Indian education on the whole, if you look at it, has done reasonably well. I mean, in spite of our inadequacies, in spite of our deficiencies, in spite of our scope to improve, in spite of the huge scope that there is to improve our standards, improve our infrastructure, like our Honorable Deputy Chief Minister touched upon it, I think Indian education system, so far along in the last 70 years, has done reasonably well in terms of, today if you look at it, the large burgeoning middle class, the upwardly mobile middle class, as we call it in India, why is it burgeoning? Why is it growing? I would say simply because of one reason, education. Today, large number of Indian professionals are moving abroad, either in information technology or in other sectors of industry. They are doing rather well. In pursuit of a better life, in pursuit of a better career, they may be migrating, or they may be migrating to cities in India, or they may be migrating to other countries across the world. The fact of the matter is, this education system that has offered us all the attributes and has prepared us today is able to actually give us solace in terms of moving upward in the social strata. But there are a few challenges and there are a few areas which I think we ought to improve. If you look at it, as I said, I think middle class, especially urban upper middle class, has really benefited from the education system in the country. But if you look at it a little more deeply, a little more deeper, our institutes today do not really rank among the top in the world. Our best institutes in India today, the IITs, the IIMs, the Indian Institute of Sciences. Recently, I think one ranking put two of our institutes barely in the top 200. IISc, the Indian Institute of Science, was ranked 147. IIT, I'm talking about global ranking, was ranked, IIT Delhi was ranked 179. Now this is not showing India in the right light, or in fact this is not really showing India in any sort of a good light at all. In fact, clearly, let us admit it, we are not producing, as our Honorable Deputy Chief Minister pointed out, world-class research anymore. Yes, we are spawning out large number of engineers. We are clearly creating large number of doctors, medical professionals. But are we really doing any path-breaking research? The answer is a clear no. Are we creating world-class scientists who have come out with Nobel-winning inventions? Answer clearly, of late at least, in the last few decades, obviously is a no. We do not, we have to admit it, we do not and we have not had a lot of innovators being created out of our system in the last few decades. If you look at the software on your laptop or your smartphone right now that you're looking at, or any gadgets that you use today, none of the applications that you see, that you use, or can be attributed to Indian youngsters or Indians who've been brought out of this education system. Clearly, there is something that is missing. And this is something that we need to address. In spite of the education, we are not innovating. Our education system clearly is imparting knowledge, but not wisdom. We are giving a lot of knowledge. In fact, it's information overdose, if you ask me. Our children today, even at the primary school age, are being given so much information. Sometimes that I sit with my children. My son who goes to 6th grade, and my daughter who goes to 3rd grade. Sometimes they demand that I complete their homework for them or assist in their homework. And trust me, I have a tough time, honestly. Because the kind of education I have received versus what these kids are receiving in 6th and 3rd grade is humongously different. I've really been having a tough time even answering some of the questions that they pose. So I'm sure most of you can empathize with me. The other thing I also wanted to point out, our education system today, in fact, yes, we do have some wonderful institutions in our city of Hyderabad. We do have some really world-class institutions in our country. But do we have institutions that are going to leave a lasting impression for generations to come? I had a meeting with Mr. Mukesh Ambani about 6 months ago. This was supposed to be a casual conversation. This was my first meeting with him. It ended up, because we had a very good conversation, it just kept flowing, went on for an hour. One of the things that really struck me as very, very inspiring and very, very humbling coming from someone like Mukesh Ambani was, he was talking about private universities. We talked about a bunch of things. I was there basically to try and impress upon him the fact that Telangana is an investment-friendly destination. And I wanted, obviously, his group, his company, to invest more in Telangana. That was my motive in going into the discussion. When he started talking, though, he said something very, very extraordinary, if you ask me. He said, I would rather do something to begin with. I would rather do something in the education space. I said, why? He narrated a very, very interesting conversation he had with his wife, Neeta. Apparently, they were having dinner, and his wife asked him, very innocuously, she said, how long do you think, after we go away, after we depart from this world, how long do you think people are going to remember your organization's name, your enterprise's name, Reliance? He thought long, he thought hard, and he said, maybe a few centuries, maybe a couple of centuries, maybe 200-300 years. She said, don't flatter yourself, apparently. And she said, can you name the name of one enterprise from the times of Nalanda or Taxila? He could not. The point she was trying to make is, institutions which have had a lasting impact on people, especially university systems, especially world-class education systems, leave a lasting impression for generations. Enterprises typically do not. That's the point she was making. And apparently that's what inspired him. Apparently that's what inspired him to think of setting up a private university as well, of the standard of a Harvard or a MIT or a Stanford in India. I think that's exactly what we need to do. Instead of competing with the private sector, Honorable Deputy Chief Minister addressed and touched upon a lot of things about elevating the education standards within our system. I completely concur with him. I think we all do agree with him. But the fact of the matter is, in our country, our public education system has not lived up or has not been able to compete with the private education system. The question that we have to ask ourselves and introspect honestly is, today, a common man in our state, in our country, why is it? We all know the two big expense items on a common man, an average man in India today. One is education of his children, two, health. These are the two biggest burdens on the common man of this country. Now, in spite of so many residential schools, in spite of so many wonderful initiatives from Government of India, Government of Telangana and other 28 states in India, why are we not able to inspire confidence in common men to send their children as a priority to the public education system? If a choice is given, why is a common man, in spite of all the hardships, in spite of what he has to put up with, in spite of knowing it fully well, that it's a big burden on his purse and his wallet, why is he wanting to send his children to a private school? Why aren't we unable to elevate our standards and compete with the private education system? I think therein lies one of the answers. I think it's a matter of fact that the private sector in education space has been able to inspire, has been able to give hope to the common man of this country to dream, to aim at big things. And therefore the government today has a clear choice. Either to compete aggressively against the private sector or to partner with it. It's my personal opinion, my personal belief that while government does its own thing, it also has to partner the private sector if we really have to aim at excellence. We really have to ensure that we partner not just with the private sector educational institutions, but the private sector in the industry, as our Honorable Deputy Chief Minister pointed out, to ensure that we receive some quality inputs on what it is that our education system should be focusing on. Like I said, we've been giving information overdose to our children. We've been feeding information overdose to our children. We've been giving a lot of knowledge, dumping a lot of knowledge, but not really giving them wisdom. Think about this. Today, there must be about 20 odd international schools, so-called international schools in the city of Hyderabad. Across the country, there would be a few hundred. My children go to one of them as well, I have to admit. Now, when I see them, when I talk to them, the kind of things they talk about, the kind of education that they have been imparted, it kind of makes me, think twice about the kind of standards, the kind of issues, the kind of future challenges that they're going to go through. Because this education system, this international schools and this international curriculum that they impart in these schools is clearly out of sync with India and Indian realities. What is being talked about today? When my son comes back home, he talks about Aston Martins and Bugattis and Maseratis and BMWs and Mercedeses. Well, there is a huge country out there, a challenge out there. There's a huge population in India which languishes for lack of a decent meal, for lack of a decent living, for lack of a decent dwelling. And here we are, our children at the age of 10, 11, 8, 9, talking about luxurious facilities, luxuries, which only the most developed countries can afford. So clearly our education system is not preparing, is not bracing our children for the realities that they will be facing eventually once they become part of the mainstream of the population. This is an area that we also need to address and understand. Because the dose of reality every so often, every now and then, should not hurt and should in fact help our children. The other thing I also wanted to point out, today, when you talk to any parent in our system, they'll tell you, what do you want your son to be or your daughter to be? In India today, I think about 90% of the children are caught in a rat race. Parents want their children to be either an engineer or a doctor. Anything other than rank 1 is not acceptable. Anything other than 99% is looked out upon. Your child is made to feel like a loser if he doesn't get the first rank. Is this the kind of education we want for our children? Is this the kind of pressure we want to put on our children? Is this what we want really out of our children? Why are we making them all job seekers? I mean, yes, engineering is good, medicine is good, but there are other streams also. There are arts. You should ensure that your child is given that kind of education, which is according to his or her interests, knowledge, abilities, sensibilities. But unfortunately, we as parents stifle them at a very early age. In fact, from personal experience, when I was in 10th grade, I was telling, I think somebody from Rama Rao Institute of Statistics and Advanced Mathematics, just now before this session began. They said, in fact, Mr. Malkonda, I think I shared it with him. He said, I'm glad you're an engineer. I said, sir, I'm not. Honestly, I'm proud that I'm not an engineer because there are way too many. But I'm also proud of engineers who've done well. That's a different story. But the point I'm trying to make is, as a
kid in 10th grade, I was told by my parents and by my peers, by my uncles and my relatives, the 10th is the most important class that you will be in. That be the board exam will determine your future. And I was petrified because I didn't know in 10th as to what I wanted to do with my life. Because you're asked to make one of the most important choices of your life at the age of 14 or 13. Imagine the plight of a teenager at that age. I'm sure most of your children at this age also. When they are being fed with this sort of pressure, and if they crumble, something happens, who's responsible? The point I'm trying to make is, let us not stifle our children. Why are we in pursuit of wanting our children to be job seekers? Let us also ensure that some of them become job creators. Let us ensure that we don't stifle their entrepreneurship abilities. Let us ensure that we don't stifle their ability to basically go out into the world, experiment, dabble, cherish, and nurture any ideas that they may have towards doing their own thing. Nothing wrong with it. I think life is the greatest teacher, life is the greatest leveler. So my appeal through this forum is to all the parents out there and to all the various wonderful people out there. I would say let's also start focusing more on creation of innovators, more on giving wings to the aspirations of our children. Ensure that they just don't become, part of an assembly line of engineers, part of an assembly line of medical professionals. There's much more to the world than just these two streams of education. Well, we are, like I said, we are as a culture, India, we don't really encourage innovations, but in fact we've started trying to change a few things. To that effect, in fact, T-Hub, as most of you may know, most of you may have visited, for those of you who haven't, I would urge you to kindly pay us a visit. It's just a platform to give wings, like I said, to the aspirations of Indian youngsters. The second thing we are also doing as a government, in addition to what the Honorable Deputy Chief Minister has said, we are also trying to ensure that we impart soft skills to our children. Other than the usual academic skills that they are taught at their institutions, we are also trying to give them the soft skills. The other thing we are also trying to bring about, in fact, our Honorable Chief Minister has been repeatedly goading us to do this. He wants to ensure that what we teach in our academic institutions is in sync with what the industry wants. He wants an industry-academia nexus to develop and emerge very strong, so that a child is not just exposed to theory, but also practice school kind of a mechanism where he or she is made to work for a semester in the industry as well, and to ensure that they actually have real-life, real-time experience, which really prepares them for a real foray into the world out there. This is something that we are very, very keen on. And as our Honorable Deputy Chief Minister pointed out, in research institutions in Hyderabad, we have more than 30 national level research institutions. Most of the research that happens in these institutions is purely academic. I'm sorry to say this to all the researchers here, with due apologies. Most of the researchers in these institutions today purely are engaged in that kind of research, which is only qualified and good enough to be published in academic journals. It is not research that can be commercialized. It is not research that can actually be put to good usage for the needs of our country, for the needs of our world. Therefore, in fact, as a government, we are also coming out with another initiative called the RICH, the Research and Innovation Circle of Hyderabad. The intent of this initiative is basically to commercialize at least part of the research that goes on in our research institutions today. We are going to sit with a group of researchers, a group of academic institutions, and also the industry experts to come out with tangible goals to ensure that we deliver on the promise of giving more solutions for India. We need not look at the West for solutions. Today we talk about smart cities. We need our own recipes, we need our own solutions, we need our own institutions to come out with solutions. We don't need, to aid a San Francisco or a Los Angeles or a Barcelona. What works there may not essentially work here. And the other day, and I'm only going to take 2 minutes and close out. The other day I was sitting in my office and we had this wonderful American organization come in and present to us about the smart city solution they've developed. They said we have this wonderful solution which can give you an alert when somebody cuts across your lane abruptly in the Hyderabad traffic. I said, beautiful. I said, that's really good. But why don't you give me a solution, an alert to my command control center when somebody's headed at me in a one-way street? They said, why would you need that? I said, welcome to India, welcome to Hyderabad. We have our own very unique problems. We have our own unique challenges. We cannot be copying solutions from the West. Our research needs to focus on Indianized solutions. We cannot be solving world problems, even before we solve our own problems at home. So our institutions, our research institutions, our academic institutions, in pursuit of excellence of education, ought to be focusing more on giving real-life solutions to India and the challenges that we face as Indians today. The other thing I also wanted to say before I close out, are we only focused on certain sectors? I think the answer is clearly yes. Today, if you look at it as a country, more than 50% of our population is engaged in farming, in agriculture. What happened to all the research in agriculture? What are we doing in terms of imparting, or when we talk excellence in education? Are we only talking engineering and medicine? Are we only talking these two professional courses? Why aren't we touching the most important sector of our country where more than 50% of the population is engaged? Why are we not seeing any path-breaking research? Why are we not seeing, I only keep hearing about Monsantos and DuPonts and the Western companies who have come out with the new biotech licenses, etc. Why are we not seeing our own universities, which ought to be the bedrocks of innovation, which ought to be in fact creating more and more entrepreneurs? Why are we failing in terms of delivering more research output, more Indianized research output for our biggest, most important sector of this country, agriculture? So these are all the questions that we need to ask ourselves. And one last thing I would say before I close out, I think government has a very, very important role. And as our Honorable Deputy Chief Minister has pointed out, while we elevate our own standards within our system, our own research institutions, be it our Agriculture University, or be it Osmania University, or Hyderabad Central University, or IITs, IIMs, IISCs, and other institutions of higher education, we also, at the same time, start from primary education, as our Honorable Deputy Chief Minister pointed out. If we really have to leapfrog from where we are to about 15, 20 years from where we should be, I think we have to use technology as a greatest enabler to make sure this happens. We've started off with digital classrooms, but I think we have to have them proliferate more. We have to be able to compete on a level footing with the private sector as well. We have to coexist. We have to partner. Like they say, if you can't beat them, join them. We can join them. We can engage them in a partnership, and we can most certainly make a huge difference to our city, our state, and consequentially, obviously, as a country. I only will say this one thing and close out. As Dr. B.R. Ambedkar had said, higher education is clearly the panacea for all and many of the problems that we face in our country today. So therefore, let's start focusing more on getting quality education standards. Let's start focusing more on partnerships. Let's start focusing more on technology. Let's start focusing more on leapfrogging from where we are to where we should be. And I surely do hope, before I close up, we also should start thinking more about the kind of pressure that we are also putting our children through, in fact, as part of our primary and secondary education system as well. Thank you, Hindu, for this wonderful opportunity. God bless, and I hope you all have a fabulous day.
Thank you very
That's
much,
fantastic.
Honorable Minister, for that very thought-provoking